Hey, my name's shawnshawn. I sell art on shawnshawn.co. Today we're going to react to Florent Farges. I think he's a French artist. I'm not exactly sure. He does kind of classical, figurative, academic painting. So let's go check it out. Alright, this first video is the 10 things I wish I knew before I started oil painting. Let's check it out, guys.
List 10 things that I wish I knew before I started oil painting. Not necessarily things that I regret, but useful things that would have just maybe saved me some time and trouble. So here's my list. Number 1, surfaces.
So one thing he's using right off the bat is he's zooming in and out of the camera. And this is kind of a mental trick on YouTube. If you kind of change the position back and forth a little bit, it jars the mind and it keeps you activated. So you're always like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? It's not something you really recognize, but it'll definitely keep the viewer to watch longer. So it's just a real easy way to do how to keep the viewer engaged. He has this nice number 1 font on top of the screen, which I really like.
And this is something that I was completely leaving out of the equation before I finally realized how important and fundamental the quality of the surface is.
So it's really nice. He has this really nice, really high close detail shot, and you can see like he's trying to sell about the surface is flat or rough, or if you use gesso probably or not. And he's got the really nice, really close in shot. That's a really cool way to just demonstrate about the surface.
Entire painting experience, and before that I was just like painting on the cheapest pre-stretched canvas there were. And I was I was not gessoing, I was not doing anything.
Okay, let's go ahead a little bit. Okay, this is the number 2.
There you go. Number 2, let it dry. So obviously, as a beginner with oil painting, you're going to fail, and you're going to have a lot of failed paintings, and you are going to have painting sessions that will end up being very disappointing. And you'll see that what you have painted at the end of the day is clearly not what up to the level that you expected.
One thing he's noticing, I mean, this is a good thing about drying, like you have to let dry. Like I remember when I painted oil, it's basically a week in between each layer. If you do really thin layers, if you do thicker layers, it might take much longer. But it's interesting, he has this little mirror in the background, which gives it kind of a reflection, so you have double action in the scene, so it's kind of a cool touch outside of this why to let it dry.
Beginner is going to give you more time to think, more time to make the correction. Number 3, don't go too fluid. So
one thing I'll say on this, he's got this nice bold print, but I think he's including a lot of text on the top, which doesn't matter. It should just be number 1, X, number 2, X, number 3, X, and that's a nice way to do it. You don't have to have all that thing on top, like 10 things I wish I knew or whatever he's putting there, because it's too much text. Really just the number and then what it is. It'd be much simpler. I think that would easily improve this really quick.
This is the mistake that I used to do with the medium when I was adding medium to my paint. Very often
good detail shot.
Things to flow really well and be very fluid, be very very transparent. Because before I started oil painting, I was doing watercolor and just felt closer to watercolor. Things were more transparent. Actually, when things are more transparent, they're less easy to control with oil paint. Oil paint is naturally a pasty, opaque medium, so you want to avoid making it too fluid, otherwise it's going to just slip away, slide all over the place.
So he gets that point.
Number 4,
yes, so you can see in the title he's putting 10 things I wish I knew every time. I would just skip that. It has it right on top if he doesn't realize. It's nice because you get that branding over and over again, like this is what this is about. So if you're pausing, you could get kind of like, I know what the video is about, but I think I would just have number 4, let it paint dry, and then call it a day. Just make much shorter titles. I think it'd be more effective. This is just a little bit too many words on the screen, basically.
Let paint dry however it wants. So before I started painting, I was sort of obsessed with dryers, alkyds, making paint dry fast.
Nice detail shot there with the zoom.
Speed up the drying time of the painting so that I can paint faster. I was really thinking about it wrong. If you're going to,
or just go to acrylic.
It's really better if you appreciate its beauty, which is slow drying time. So what I wish I knew before is don't be obsessed with making it dry faster. Just appreciate its natural drying time.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's move on to the next video. He's going to go through the whole series, but I think you get kind of a nice viewpoint. I really like how he shot the video. It's just a straight-on shot. He's probably using 50mm at a distance, so you got that really nice blur background. You got some stuff in the background, but really it just focuses on him. So a really good video production value here. Let's go to the next video. So this one is don't be afraid to start with a mess. So let's see what that's about. So this looks like charcoal or something. Not painting. So that's obviously a huge mess. Oh no, what is this? So that's it. Let me see that. Oh, that's super cool. So it's really cool. He's actually adding subtitles, but he's not doing voiceover. I'm not sure why. It's kind of a weird thing to do the music and then the no voiceover, just speak it. I mean, most people are going to be too lazy to click this. I've clicked it, so it's kind of a cool effect. I've never seen that done before, so that's kind of an interesting way to do it. I don't know why we do it this way, but we'll just leave it on to see how it looks. Really good understanding of the figure. He's got the material show up, that's good. Yeah, I would agree with that. The way I paint as well is I'll kind of start with the big shapes and fill in the whole painting and then slowly fine tune it. Other artists work, like with charcoal, this is a really interesting way to work with charcoal. I've always seen people work with lines and then fill it in. So he's working the opposite, which is start with the mess, clean it up, and then slowly kind of redefine it. So it's kind of interesting with charcoal. With painting, what I do is I block it in and then fine detail it, but other people will actually sketch it out as like a fine scale drawing in really light marks and with it gridded out so you get all the proportions right, and then they'll slowly fill in the figure, which it works for certain types of painting, I think. So it's interesting how people work. It's very different. Using time lapse, so it's really fast. So guys, he also has this nice over the shoulder. You see a little bit of his face on the corner, but it's kind of like a nice camera angle. The drawing is right in the middle. You might want to adjust that so the drawing is off to the side because he's really losing a lot of the screen. I would say that he could use more, but you know, it's fine. It's pretty well shot, I think. So I think it's a really cool process. He's using a nice lens here. You can see it's kind of the brush is blurry, but then the image is still and sharp. So that's kind of how I try to set up my camera. I'll set it up so if I'm painting like the surface here, I want this sharp, and then everything else that moves around it, like my face is farther ahead, I'll keep that blurry because I really want that surface to be sharp. So I think that's the best way to do kind of a painting demo or a drawing demo in this case. Make sure the image is in sharp. Put on manual, and then if you go in and out, it's fine if it's blurry because you really want the image to be sharp. You don't want to the camera to be focusing in and out between the near and the far. Like in this case, if I go forward, it's facing here, and this is blurry now, but see how that gets sharp and then this gets blurry? So you don't want that. You really want this to be static with a manual focus, and then you come in close, you're not going to have that the camera refocus on top. You know, that just doesn't work very well. Let's go on to the next video. So this is about color composition and color theory. So it's interesting to combine color theory with composition. So let's see what it's about.
Alright, you've got everything prepared. Your drawing is done. The blocking has been established on the canvas. The only thing left for you to do is decide what colors you want to use in your composition. You get to decide. You don't have to paint boring, dull colors. You can imagine whatever you want.
So it's kind of a cool way to start the painting. You see him kind of setting up a painting. You go to the colors, you go to the brushes, and he's using really this. He might be using 50 millimeter, might even be like a 70 millimeter. It had a really shallow frame of depth. So you put the F settings to like, 1 or 2.4 or something like really low value. And what that'll do is crush the focus to only a shallow grain. Everything is blurry. Everything's in foreground is blurry. And so that's what he's kind of doing here. It gives it a really nice visual aspect, kind of very artistic feel to the video versus just, if everything was in focus, you wouldn't get that effect. So it gives it a very cinematic, kind of really cool effect, really nice dark shadow in the background, light on the brushes. So very well manipulating how the scene is lit, from a cinematic effect.
And you want something colorful that strikes the eye of the viewer.
Great detail there.
This is where the most common mistake occur for people, and I hope you'll avoid it. When thinking about color and color composition, most people only consider hue. And if you have seen some of my videos on the subject before, you know that hue is only one component of color. The two others being value or lightness and chroma, also called saturation or hue purity. Have you ever been incapable of deciding which colors to put together in your composition? Should you paint with blue, orange and red, or maybe purple, green and brown? Have you ever felt that no matter what combination of hue you tried, nothing seems to go well together and you can't figure why? Well, if it's the case, the problem might actually come from the fact that you are seeing color in terms of hue and not in terms of chroma. This
is a really good explanation. I think he's leading up to. Also, the zoom on the paint, super juicy. Let's skip ahead a little bit.
Variety in chroma, we can use any hue we want and still have a great composition with intense colors.
Gotta love the zoom on the colors.
This
it's like
concept for composition that I invented is not based on which hues should go together, but on what role a given color plays in the painting based on its chroma. As a reminder, chroma is the degree of purity of a given hue, or to say it differently, its difference from a neutral gray. For example, the sphere on the left has a low chroma because it's close to gray, whereas the sphere on the right has a high chroma. You can see how chroma can affect the composition. If all colors have a high chroma, the overall impression can quickly become very unpleasant. Like, you don't know where your eyes are supposed to look. There's no hierarchy between colors. On the other hand, if most colors are rather dull, but only one touch of a strong, vivid color appears, then the eye will naturally be attracted to it.
Yeah, this is a really good point. I think I've made a mistake. I've been like much more higher chroma in a lot of my earlier paintings. And so I think that's really a challenge, as an younger artist, not younger, but earlier in your career as an artist, you'll put too much color all over the canvas and there's really no focal point. And so that great thing of really calming it down and only having one color that kind of pops out is going to be like, boom, your eye going to naturally attract that pure chroma, and the rest kind of just give it that nice feel that complement it, but not overpowering. And that's a really powerful effect in painting.
Green, purple, or blue, whatever. What matters is not the hue of the chosen color, but how each hue has a chroma that gives it a specific role in the hierarchy of the composition. There's always been this idea in my mind that chroma It's a little bit like sugar for the eye.
So I think he's doing a really good point there. It's interesting because I thought he was going to do composition, but it's focused color within composition, so it's a really cool cut. Maybe I'll take this idea. It's obviously really strong video on how to use color within your painting.
Inspired by music, I have identified 3 main concepts to remember. 1. The tonic. It's the main color of the painting, the one that first comes to mind when remembering the painting. 2. The dominant. I call it dominant because it's the color that occupies the largest surface area, but it's generally duller. 3. The accent. It's a small touch of color with a small surface area supposed to attract the eye. What defines an accent is that it's not a structural part of the chromatic composition, and it can therefore be modified at will or even removed.
So one important point you can make is, like when you do any landscape, I would say you're painting sky and you take your ultramarine blue and your white and you mix it, that's going to be very high chroma still. So what you want to do is add a little kind of brown, maybe orange, and just tone it down just a little bit. And what you do is you tone down every single color you put in the landscape, and then when you get to close to the end, you take that pure white or maybe mix with a little blue and just outline the cloud just a little bit. It'll really make it pop. Same with the waves. Leave it kind of a blue, that blue-green, you know, that teal color, mix in with phthalo green, turquoise green, those kind of colors, and then mix in with maybe a quin blue, which is hard to get now, but maybe use Prussian blue instead. But you play around with the ocean, and then what you do is you just add a little bit just to be it slightly off, and then you'll have certain areas which are darker, more pure chroma, or you have the waves just mostly kind of a dull white, and then you just have a little bit of the pure titanium white to really make it pop out. And you don't want a little bit because it'll really, you can use those really highlights of pure, either pure white, pure black, you know, the pure hue, and everything else is just slightly under the pure chroma. You're going to really notice that pop, and it'll really make the painting really stand out. You know, I never thought about it until I started painting, as I watched other people paint. And it really makes a huge difference in your painting. If you just kind of tone down your hues just a little bit for most of the painting, and then make it pop in the certain areas, it'll just like super pop.
It's a small touch of color that the artist uses to make the painting more exciting and vibrant. Let's analyze some paintings to see how it works. I'm not saying that these artists were following this rule or that it's the only rule. I just want to give you an idea of how it works, and after that, of course, it can expand. And there's a lot more subtlety and variety in there that you can imagine. Alright, so first let's see what the dominant is based on this painting. The dominant color is defined by the space it occupies. Simply, it's the color with the largest surface area. It's generally low or neutral in chroma, and it is visible on the largest surface of the canvas, whereas the accent is a high chroma color that occupies a very small surface, and you can modify it without affecting the composition too much. The dominant color is often the background, but it's not always the case. What's always the case is that the dominant color creates unity and envelopes the subject of the painting, unifying everything around it. The tonic color is the main color, just like it's the main note in a chord. It's the one that sets the tone of the painting, which is why I call it tonic. It's not just an accent because it can be relatively large. However, it's not the space it occupies that defines the tonic, but its importance as a whole in the composition. To put it simply, the tonic is the color that you keep in mind when you recollect memories of the painting. For example, I went to this exhibition last week, and I really like this painting of the young boy in red. See, the tonic is the red. The tonic is often a medium or high chroma color, but it doesn't have to be particularly strong to stand out. The dominant completes the tonic by offering it a neutral context.
So I think he has a really good point there. Let's go here, painting analysis.
Explore more deeply in my course on color theory, and if you're interested, you'll find a link in the description. So next time you think about color composition, don't just think about which hues you want to put together Also think about the role each color will play in the composition. Is this color supposed to be the dominant? What is the tonic? What color is supposed to strike the eye?
And I love how he's doing this color mixing in the background. It's kind of like, ooh, that goes blue, and that goes to green, and it's a little gray green and a little red green and whatever. So it's really common, really nicely done. And he obviously pitches a chorus, so this is kind of a short introduction, and then he obviously goes very thoroughly in his chorus. Seems like a really good teacher, so it seems like I could definitely recommend him. I really like his videos. I probably should have covered a painting as well, but you can't cover everything, right? You kind of cover a smorgasbord, a little snippet of everything in the particular artist. I really like the way he's using the video camera, very sharply, artistically done. It's very beautifully shot together. So obviously, if you shoot a video this way, it's called evergreen in the sense like composition color. It's classic. It's never going to change. You might come up with new colors like Venta Black, or they have some other new color they invented, but it's very rare they invent new colors, right? But so this will probably stick forever. You film it really high quality like he's done. Someone else can copy this, but it's already well done. So it's just going to naturally have that great building block within YouTube, high quality videos. And I've seen other people like Jose Trujillo, who I cover in one of my other artist reacts, and his belief system is more quantity over quality in the video, which I think is an approach that works. But if you look at the stats, the stats on this guy's probably he's going to see more view count long term, I think. And if you just kind of shoot it run and gun kind of shooting where you just kind of set up camera, boom, and shoot it, it's fine when you start out, but those videos won't be as popular later on. They'll kind of build up, but they won't build up as fast as a quality video. So it's kind of a little bit on the fence. I'm kind of in between. I want to film it pretty quickly, but I like to get a high quality thing, and I think he's going for the ultra high quality video, which I think is really good long term. It's going to be very evergreen material, and he's doing really high realism kind of academic painting, so that's really appropriate for that style. You couldn't just run and gun it on the video. It wouldn't match this style of painting. You can run and gun it if you do expressionism or kind of very abstract, maybe that works. But again, I kind of lean more towards a quality video because you can reuse it and it will just stand the test of time, so to say, versus constantly videoing. It's just kind of hard to keep up with, I would say. If you don't edit at all, it's not hard to do because you can obviously just set up and run and gun it. So kind of on the fence about which one is a better approach. The run and gun is good to make kind of that personal attachment to the artist and the audience, but this kind of creates a really long-term, like, oh, this guy's a great teacher, I want to learn from him. Oh, he's a great teacher, I want to buy from him. So a little bit on the fence. I think he's a really good teacher. Nice pacing, has a little bit of accent, which is actually endearing when you sell art to have some kind of accent. If you have a neutral accent, it's not as cool, I think. But you want some kind of personality to come through, and I think he has some of his personality. Really great techniques. So yeah, I would encourage you to go check out this guy. His name is Florent Farges. All right, thanks for watching, guys. And if you'd like to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you in the next Artist Reacts. Thanks for watching, guys.